to Atlantic City, where tomorrow the push to the 2021 Professional Fighters League playoffs continues at Ocean Casino Resort. It's win in advance or lose and go home in the quest for a championship and $1 million payday. Light heavyweights and welterweights with a must-watch main event. Rory the Red King MacDonald versus Gleison Tibau. Welcome to the PFL Weigh-In Show. Greetings, fight fans. I am Sean O'Connell, joined as always by the Hall of Famer Randy Couture and our resident MMA guru, Mr. Kenny Florian. Fellas, two huge matchups in the welterweight division. Former Bellator champion Rory MacDonald, former PFL champion from 2019, Ray Cooper III, and they're both in action. Kenny, the Red King was impressive in his PFL debut. Now he's got a shot at the #1 seed.
Yeah, he sure was. You know, this is a guy who has been one of the best welterweights in the world for several years now. And because of that, there was a lot of pressure on his shoulders when he came in here to the PFL. And you know what? He went out there and delivered, getting the win by submission, rear naked choke over Curtis Millender. You know, the fact that he was able to go out there and do it in this type of fashion shows that he is in prime form right now.
And Ray Cooper III has more knockouts than anybody in the history of the PFL. But he faces a fellow striker, a tough finisher, Nikolai Aleksakhin.
Yeah, well, I get excited every time I see this guy go stomping out into the cage because you know something explosive is going to happen. He's got great wrestling skills. He's a state champion from Hawaii, amazing punching power. You better get out of the way of those hooks or you're gonna go to sleep. This guy's got a formidable, I mean, he's just a tenacious competitor. Every time he steps out there, you know something crazy is gonna happen. I enjoy watching it.
Some important news on the Ray Cooper III front. This morning, he missed weight. That means he receives a 1-point deduction in the standings. Now, thanks to a first-round stoppage earlier in the regular season, he still has 5 points, which may very well get him into the playoffs. It's points, playoff standings, all of that is an important part of the Professional Fighters League format. And if you're new to the format of regular season playoffs and a championship in MMA, don't worry, Ken Flo has you covered.
The second half of the regular season is the last chance for fighters in all 6 weight divisions to secure their playoff spot. Remember, it's 3 points for a win plus bonus points for early finishes. Only the top 4 fighters with the most points in each division will qualify. It's win in advance, lose, and go home. Playoff contenders then compete in the semifinals for a place at the 2021 PFL World Championship, the biggest night in MMA. 6 title fights in one night. The winner of each earns $1 million.
All right, so that's the format, and these are the welterweight standings right now. The Red King, Rory MacDonald, sitting at the top with 6 points. Ray Cooper had 6, now he has 5 after that missed weight. And the 2018 champion, Magomedkerimov, is back, but he's currently got -1 point in the standings after he missed his first regular season bout. So it's win or go home for Magomedkerimov tomorrow night. 4 huge fights on ESPN2 starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. MacDonald and Cooper are the last 2 fights of the night. They'll know exactly what they need to get the seed that they want. And 2 huge light heavyweight bouts starting the main card, including the 2019 light heavyweight champion, Emiliano Sordi. How about those odds? Rory MacDonald, prohibitive betting favorite. Emiliano Sordi, a favorite in his own right. And Nikolai Aleksakhin has edged out the returning champion, Ray Cooper III. He is now a favorite in that co-main event. With that, we take a look at our light heavyweight standings. Cesar Ferreira and Antonio Carlos Jr., both sitting at the top, tied with 6 points apiece. Martin Hamlet right behind him at 5 points. And Emiliano Sordi, who had the most dominant season in PFL history back in 2019, 5 for 5, that's 5 fights, 5 finishes. He's got 3 points. So does the newcomer, Jordan Young. Randy, we talked about Cesar Ferreira a lot ahead of his debut, and what a debut it was. This is a former trading partner of yours, and he's at the top of the standings right now.
Absolutely. He helped me get ready for my retirement fight. Long, rangy kid, uses capoeira in his, he's a master of capoeira. He's also a Brazilian black belt jiu-jitsu. Long levers, long arms, and long feet. Watch for that front kick. He pays dividends with that. This guy's a well-rounded fighter. I love him at this weight class. I think he was cutting too much weight before. He looks fantastic at 205.
An absolutely stellar debut for the man they call the Mutant. But a lot of folks think, well, it's still Emiliano Sordi's division. He's riding 3 points, Kenny. It was a hard-fought victory over Chris Camosi. Now he's back a little healthier.
Yeah, that's right. He was battling back from COVID. So obviously, this was the first time we had seen him this exhausted in a fight. He's used to knocking guys out very, very quickly, as you can see right there, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. This guy is a legitimate threat and is capable of finishing you anywhere. In his fight against Chris Camosi, in his debut, it was a back-and-forth war. You know, it's always easy when you're the hammer. We found out what happened to him when he was the nail, and he was able to come back and deal with adversity.
It was important for me that a takedown won that fight for Emiliano Sordi. He's not just a striker.
Yeah.
Now, tomorrow's event kicks off at 5:30 p.m. on ESPN+. 6 great fights leading up to our ESPN2 show. And a dream matchup for the jiu-jitsu fans out there, Antonio Carlos Jr., Shoeface versus Vinny Magalhaes. That's taking place, of course, in our light heavyweight division. And Magomedkerimov, I cannot stress this enough. Win or go home scenario for a former champ, and also for his opponent, Curtis Millender. And right now, Magomillions is the biggest favorite on the card at minus 1115. All right, 2 of the light heavyweights on our ESPN Plus card are making the paths to the playoffs difficult for Sordi. For everyone else, Antonio Carlos Jr., Shoeface, he's a contender at 205.
I truly believe that. You know, prior to his PFL debut, he said he was working very hard at American Top Team, working on his wrestling, working on his striking, and at range, he looked phenomenal. All of his weapons looked very sharp, but again, he used his world-class pedigree in jiu-jitsu to get the job done by arming guillotine against another good grappler in Tom Lawlor.
A successful debut for Shoeface, and as long as we're riding the theme of successful debuts, Martin Hamlet burst onto the PFL scene. Relatively unknown, this kid is a physical specimen, and he's got the skill to back it up.
Absolutely. This is a 7-time national champion in Greco-Roman wrestling for Norway, and in the hunt for their Olympic team. Of all the styles we're familiar with in the U.S., Greco is one of those styles that translates very well. He has great body locks, incredibly strong. Here he finishes his opponent from a strange position with an arm triangle. This is something you never see. It's a tribute to the strength this guy brings to the cage.
The night will begin in the welterweight division. Sadabusi, Aleksakhin, 2 men that are proficient in the striking arts, and 2 men who know they need points to guarantee themselves a spot in these PFL playoffs. Let's start with Sadabusi. This is a guy who came down from 185 pounds a couple seasons ago. He feels much better at 170 pounds. And he's so tall, so long, so rangy in this weight class.
No doubt about it. One of the tallest welterweights I've ever seen. And when you combine that with his striking prowess and his precision, his ability to find your chin or find your body from anywhere, whether it's his hands or his feet, he is going to be a nightmare for anyone on the feet.
And Randy, his opponent, Aleksakhin, has 1 opportunity to earn points. And as I mentioned before, these guys know they need to finish. Well, he's got a history of finishes in his career.
He sure does. He went out to a 20-win streak as he started this sport. 14 of those were by stoppage. 13 of them were knockouts. This guy was an N1 global title holder in the welterweight division. He vacated that title to go to the UFC and start his career there, and now he's here in the PFL.
It's win or go home as we start the night tomorrow. And now, Lillian Garcia puts these fighters on the scale.
Well, thank you, Sean, and good evening, everyone. We are fired up about tomorrow night's fights in the welterweight and the light heavyweight division. It will all begin on ESPN Plus at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And now, to officially start the weigh-ins, please welcome the president of the PFL Fighter Operations, Mr. Ray Sefo. And now to kick off for the fighters in the blue corner, fighting out of Yekaterinburg, Russia, here is Aleksakhin Kunchenko. His official weight, 169.5 pounds. In the red corner, fighting out of Stockholm, Sweden, the Swedish Denzel Sadabusi. His official weight, 170 pounds.
Action continues at 205 pounds between a couple of grapplers. Filthy Tom Lawlor and Jordan Young. Now, Jordan Young carries 3 walkover victory points into this one. His first regular season bout did not take place because his opponent, Magomedkerimov, who was a late replacement, didn't make weight. So Jordan Young put in all that camp, all that time, wasn't able to actually show up and fight, but he gets 3 points. Now he wants a finish because he wants to guarantee himself a spot in the bracket.
That's right. Jordan is a very confident young man. He believes he's got the advantage everywhere. He thinks his height is definitely going to be a factor against Tom Lawlor. But he said, even if we go to the mat, he said, I don't really want to be on my back for too long, but he is confident he can get the win down there as well.
And Filthy Tom Lawlor, incredibly experienced. He's been all over the world of combat sports. He's been in pro wrestling. He got submitted in his opener. He needs a finish or he's going home.
Absolutely, and he felt like in the lockdown while everybody else was not doing anything, pro wrestling helped him get out there, stay in front of the crowd, kept him working out. He brings a ton of well-rounded experience in the sport of mixed martial arts. He's going to have his hands full, and it's win or go home, but I think he's up to the challenge.
And with that, we send it over to Lily.
In the blue corner, fighting out of Coconut Creek, Florida, Jordan Young. His official weight, 206 pounds. In the red corner, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, Filthy Tom Lawlor. His official weight, 203.5 pounds.
Back to the welterweight division we go. Magomedkerimov and Curtis Millender. This is a returning PFL champion. Maga Millions, we like to call him. The man who beat Ray Cooper in the Season 1 welterweight championship bout. He's an incredibly well-rounded mixed martial artist. He had some visa issues, wasn't able to get over here, so he carries -1 point into his 2021 PFL debut. What do we expect from Maga Millions?
I think a lot of energy, a lot of aggression. Talk about confident. This guy is going out for a first-round finish. That's what he told us. He said whether it's on the feet or on the ground, he's going to look to try to take out Curtis Millender as quickly as possible. The thing is, he actually has the skills to be able to pull it off.
And Curtis Millender stepped in on short notice in his first regular season bout to take on the Red King, Rory MacDonald. That's a tall task for anyone. I asked him, How did camp go for this MAGA fight? He said, well, I actually had a
one,
camp.
yeah.
Really?
I had a whole camp.
He feels like he can dethrone the former champion.
Well, he's going to be hard to put away, and that's what Magomed needs. So, I mean, he's well-rounded. He's got great skill sets in all facets of this game. He's a good striker. He's explosive. It's going to be really interesting to see how he deals with the former champ in Magomed.
And having a camp does make a difference. You can ask any fighter. Lillian?
In the blue corner, fighting out of Fullerton, California, by way of San Bernardino, Curtis Millender. His official weight, 170.5 pounds. In the red corner, fighting out of Dagestan, Russia, here is Magomedkerimov. His official weight, 171 pounds.
There's a little language barrier between these two gentlemen, but the trash talk is universal. Magomedkerimov and Curtis Millender. That's what I'm looking forward to. Staying in the welterweight division, Joao Zeferino versus Jason Ponet. It'll be Brazil versus France. Zeferino, decision victory in his PFL first regular season bout. Jason Ponet lost by submission to Ray Cooper III. So the Brazilian samurai, Joao Zeferino, feels like, you know, I had a strong performance in my first regular season bout, but another strong performance might not be enough to get you into the playoffs.
Right, and I think that's why he believes, you know, he's got the skills on the ground to get it done and get it done early. Zeferino is a fantastic striker, has some serious power in his hands, but I believe he thinks the easiest path to victory here against Ponet is to try to take him down and get a similar submission to what Ray Cooper did.
And if you're Jason Ponet, you've got to prove to Zeferino and everybody else you can stay on the feet and use your striking skill.
Absolutely. He's a well-rounded striker. He mixes up pretty well. But this, let's be honest, is a huge step up in competition for him, being in the PFL at this level in this weight class.
Can he answer the doubters with a victory over Zeferino? We'll find out tomorrow night. Lillian Garcia?
In the blue corner, fighting out of Bordeaux, France, the Amazonian samurai, Jason Ponet. His official weight, 169.5 pounds. In the red corner, fighting out of Florianopolis, Brazil, the Brazilian samurai, Joao Zeferino. His official weight, 171 pounds.
Little samurai on samurai violence tomorrow next. Back up to 205 pounds, the big boys. And goodness gracious, Martin Hamlet had an unbelievable PFL debut. Really, for a lot of folks, burst onto the scene in a way that, well, it was at least memorable. Randy, he's a great Greco-Roman wrestler. He's got at least enough jiu-jitsu to choke Dan Spohn completely unconscious. But he tells us that, no, the striking, you still haven't seen the striking.
And I think we're probably going to see it in this one. He's a big, strong guy, and he comes to fight. He comes across, he wants to get his hands on you, and he's going to punch his way into that. It's going to be interesting.
Well, he's going to have to punch his way in because he's facing a taller, longer-limbed opponent in Hendricks.
Yeah, that's right. Hendricks has been around the block, and he says, you know, listen, I've fought a lot of guys like Hamlet. I'm not really that concerned. I'm going to use my striking, try to keep him on the outside. You know, if he does take me down, he said, no big deal. He's like, I can get it done there too, so we'll find out.
And I can't stress this enough. Hendricks needs points. Lillian Garcia?
In the blue corner, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, Corey Hendricks. His official weight, 205.5 pounds. In the red corner, fighting out of Tønsberg, Norway, here is Martin Hamlet. His official weight, 205.5 pounds.
Well, don't be surprised if these guys try to fight it out in a gi tomorrow night. Antonio Carlos Jr. and Vinny Magalhaes bring some of the best jiu-jitsu pedigree in the sport of mixed martial arts to the cage combined. I'm really excited about this one. Let's start with Vinny. This is a guy I fought. We've seen him translate in the PFL cage his jiu-jitsu into success in MMA. He's on weight. He's ready to go.
As a grappling nerd, I'm very excited about this fight. And Vinny was, you know, pretty candid. He said, listen, this is one of the few guys who can match me on the ground. And he says, I got to worry about his striking as well. Vinny said he's in way better shape for this fight. He's way better prepared, and he's ready to rock.
And Shoeface, you can't say enough about the pedigree this guy brings in. But if there's anyone who can negate that, it's Vinny standing across from him. So does this become a striking battle?
That's the question, right? Are these guys going to try and play with each other on the ground and see who's best there? Or they both have good striking, too, and they're not afraid, not shy to just go nose to nose and let him fly. I think that's what's going to happen.
A specialist dream at 205 pounds. Lillian Garcia gets him on the scale.
In the blue corner, fighting out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Vinny Magalhaes. His official weight, 204 pounds. In the red corner, fighting out of João Pessoa, Brazil, here is Shoeface Antonio Carlos Jr. His official weight, 205 pounds.
I'm not going to lie. I hope that goes to the ground.
Yeah.
That will be our feature bout on ESPN Plus. And then it's this, starting at 9 Eastern on ESPN2, 4 unbelievable fights, 2 at light heavyweight, and of course, the final 2 at welterweight. Take a look at the odds one more time. Rory MacDonald still a hefty favorite. Emiliano Sordi getting respect, as is Cesar Ferreira, and Nikolai Aleksakhin is now the favorite over Ray Cooper, the returning 2019 champion. All right, those final 2 bouts, main event and co-main event, might be where we figure out everything at the welterweight division. Ray Cooper III and Rory MacDonald felt like they were on a collision course. Now Ray misses weight, it changes things a little bit. And of course their opponents have designs on playoff spots of their own.
That's right. You know, for Ray Cooper, you know, I know he's not going to get the points here in this fight, but I don't expect him to bow down for anybody, right? Because Aleksakhin could, you know, get through if he gets a win, especially if he gets a finish. And for Rory MacDonald, he said, listen, the way that I fight, I go out to finish every single time. He wants to get as many points as possible. And just the martial artist that he is, he wants to go out there, show his skills, bring it, be aggressive, and try to get a win.
So those fights are happening at 170 pounds. Randy, you're a former 205-pound world champion. We've got some formidable light heavyweights, including Emiliano Sordi. I can't stress this enough. Last time, he was recovering, a couple weeks removed from COVID. What's he going to look like tomorrow night?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to see his 2019 form come back to life here tomorrow night. He's going to have a full camp, got his conditioning under him. He's not going to get tired this time. He's going to let those hands go. It's going to be an amazing night. I'm looking forward to seeing him out there.
And of course, Randy's old training partner, Cesar Mutanchi Ferreira, he will start off the night on ESPN2 against Chris Camosi, who happens to be the man that pushed the returning champion Emiliano Sordi to his absolute limit. If it wasn't for one takedown in the third round, that fight might have gone a different way in Camosi's favor. All right, let's talk about Mutanchi, okay? The big debut, we've already discussed a little bit.
Yep.
He put his striking on display, but you can make an argument that's not even his specialty.
No, I mean, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's long, he's rangy, he's really good on the ground, but he's got such long levers. That front kick is devastating. I literally had to wear an extra rib pad because he was tearing me up with that thing. And almost on cue, he delivered against Nick. I was unbelievable, but I really like him at this weight. I think this is the right weight for him. He was cutting too much weight to try and make 85.
And we might see Mutanchi grapple because Camosi, during the layoff, he was in kickboxing. He was a professional kickboxer that came back to MMA. So if you're going to take the safe route, it might be trying to take Camosi down. Can he survive or even win on the ground?
Well, it's interesting because that's what Camosi expects. He expects Ferreira to go out there and try to look for a takedown. Will that freeze up his striking? I don't know, but he definitely needs points. I expect Camosi to go out there very aggressive and to test the striking of Ferreira. So I think this is one of those fights you can't miss. Both these guys are going to throw down big time.
It's the first of 4 unbelievable bouts on ESPN2. Lillian Garcia.
That's right, it is non-stop action tomorrow night. As a reminder, these fights can be seen on ESPN2 starting at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce the fighter in the blue corner. From Denver, Colorado, Chris Camosi. His official weight, 204.5 pounds. In the red corner, fighting out of Boca Raton, Florida, and representing Brazil, here is Cesar Mutanchi Ferreira. His official weight, 205.5 pounds.
When Emiliano Sordi and Dan Spohn step into the PFL Smart Cage, they will know exactly how many points they need to secure a playoff spot or a top seed, potentially, for Emiliano Sordi. Dan Spohn coming off a loss, Emiliano Sordi coming off a hard-fought decision victory, and both of them in desperate need of points. Randy, how much of an advantage is it, though, that they'll go in, everything else will have already shaken out at 205. They'll know exactly what they need.
Well, I think it definitely helps. I mean, there's still the problem across the cage that you have to solve, but knowing exactly how far you have to put yourself out there to try and score those points can certainly help you gauge what you have to do. Dan Spohn's a great guy, corrections officer from Ohio, and literally has to take leave to be able to come out here and fight. Pretty remarkable.
He loves the sport. He's a tough competitor. He's also a tall southpaw, which can be difficult even if you're a great striker like Emiliano Sordi.
Yeah, no question about it. And again, a desperate fighter is always going to be a dangerous fighter. Sordi's got to watch out for that. Yeah.
Lillian Garcia puts him on the scale.
In the blue corner, fighting out of Columbus, Ohio, Dan the Dragon Spohn. His official weight, 205.5 pounds. In the red corner, fighting out of Rio Cuarto, Argentina, your 2019 PFL Light Heavyweight World Champion, Emiliano Sordi. His official weight, 205 pounds.
And up next, our co-main event of the evening, Ray Cooper III, 2019 champion, taking on Nikolai Aleksakhin, who we've seen in a feature bout, and then we saw kind of a half fight against Sadibou in his first regular season outing. That unfortunately ended due to an eye poke, which means a no contest. That's good enough for 1 point. The key takeaway here, Randy, is if Nikolai Aleksakhin wants to get into the playoffs, he's going to have to finish Ray Cooper III. It's a tall task.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks to be a slugfest. Both these guys are strikers. This is one of those Dagestani guys, these Russians that come from the master of sport in Sambo. You just don't know what to expect. They're good everywhere. It's going to be a fun one.
And sometimes when a guy misses weight, we say, oh, there's something else wrong. He's sick or he got injured.
Right.
Doesn't seem to be the case with Ray Cooper III. I think it just made him angry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As if he needed to be angrier. Yeah, this guy's an absolute hurricane. The way he fights, like Randy was saying earlier, he fights with so much ferocity, and he has so much to prove, it seems, that I think he's going to treat this just like any other fight.
Lillian Garcia, take it away.
In the blue corner, fighting out of Bryansk, Russia, here is Nikolai Aleksakhin. His official weight, 169 pounds. In the red corner, fighting out of Pearl City, Hawaii, here is your 2019 PFL Welterweight World Champion, Ray Cooper III. His official weight, 171.75 pounds.
Take a look at our tail of the tape for this co-main event. As you can see, major point here, Ray Cooper III did miss weight. He's also 2 inches shorter and will be at a 4-inch arm reach disadvantage when compared with the Russian Nikolai Aleksakhin. Nikolai Aleksakhin, we saw you against Sadibou. Unfortunately, that fight ended in a no contest because of an eye poke. I feel like the anticipation of actually seeing you really get going is still strong. In order to get into these playoffs, you're going to have to beat a former champion. How do you get that done?
Николай, то, что получилось в вашем бою с Бадоуси, к сожалению, за это вам поинтов меньше досталось, но мы видим, что вы готовитесь к бою, вы хорошо подходите, у вас настрой боевой, и, судя по всему, вам надо будет заканчивать бой срочно. Как вы думаете, какой план? Вы готовы?
Да, в первом бою мне не удалось показать все свои навыки, поэтому этот бой еще больше мотивация. То, что мой соперник, чемпион организации, это вдвойне мотивирует меня. Да, хочу закончить бой досрочно, если получится. Главная победа.
I'm aware that he's a very serious opponent, and yes, unfortunately I wasn't able to show all my skills on the first fight. Well, that gives more for the second one. I'm ready, and I'm ready to take it.
Thank you to Nikolai and his translator, of course. Brada, Ray Cooper III. The way the points work out tomorrow night, it very well could be win or go home when you face off with Nikolai Aleksakhin. Back against the wall, what should we expect?
The same thing. I can come out, finish this guy. I made a mistake. I apologize, and but tomorrow gonna be the same thing. I'll come out and I'll take him out.
The weight cut, you know, a lot of people question, well, if he didn't make weight, is there something else wrong? Is he healthy? Is he ready to go? How do you answer that?
It was just a mistake on my end. I did something wrong, and it cost me. But I'm past that, and yeah, just focusing on the fight.
Thank you, Ray Cooper. Excited to see that co-main event matchup. Depending on how it works out with all the fights leading up to that, it really could be win or go home for both men. And of course, our main event features two longtime veterans, a couple of legends of the sport, really. Rory MacDonald, Tibau. Between them, this is damn near 100 MMA fights. Yeah. And 3 decades of experience at the very top level in this sport. Let's talk about Tibau first. He's coming off a loss, and Rory MacDonald is the kind of guy that can keep you at bay. He can be tactical. He's very composed in his fights. Well, Tibau said, I got to make it a street fight. How do you do that against Rory MacDonald?
He's got to keep his hands up, his chin down, and wade in. He's got to get inside of Rory and try and land those shots. He's great from the clinch, great from the plum, really good at Muay Thai, and he's going to have to operate in that close contact range, I think.
I ask you the same question, but just from the Rory MacDonald lens. Right. How do you keep a guy like Tibau, who's so experienced, who's so compact, who has formidable power, how do you keep him at bay and play it safe, if you will, hang on to your advantage of 6 points?
Well, he certainly has to be careful against Tibau and all that experience, but he is going to be the longer, taller guy. He's got to use that reach, keep Tibau on the outside, and if he does rush in, which I expect him to do, see if he can catch him with some counter shots and maybe even take him down. Rory has sneaky good wrestling as well.
With that, we send it to Lillian.
In the blue corner, fighting out of Rio Grande do Norte, Brazil, Tibau. His official weight, 170.5 pounds. In the red corner, fighting out of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, the Red King, Rory MacDonald. His official weight, 171 pounds.
And with that, we look at our tail of the tape for this main event. Significant reach advantage there, 8 inches, if my math is correct, for Rory MacDonald on the feet. He's also 4 inches taller than the Brazilian veteran. Gleison Tibau, one half of our main event. Gleison, this is a fight between two legends. And if you're going to make the playoffs, you really do need to finish. How do you make that happen against such an experienced opponent?
Tibau, uma luta entre duas lendas do esporte. Se você quer chegar aí nos playoffs, o que você faz? Qual é a estratégia para conquistar o número de pontos suficiente?
Sim, eu conheço o Ponet há muito tempo no mundo das artes marciais. É uma lenda, vai ser um combate de lendas. E é um cara completo, um cara que tem strike, tem wrestling, tem jiu-jitsu. Eu não vejo muita brecha. Então vamos para porrada, vai ser porrada mesmo.
Absolutely, this is a fight against two legends. Rory is a legend of the sport. He has great wrestling, jiu-jitsu, striking. So I don't see many gaps in his game. So the only way around it, in my opinion, is to fight, is to brawl.
And Rory MacDonald, the strategy of brawling against you, quite frankly, hasn't always been successful. We expect Gleison Tibau to try and start fast. You're already holding on to 6 points. How do you expect this fight to play out?
Yeah, well, I'm ready for whatever. You know, I have a lot of experience, and if someone starts a brawl with me, I feel like I have the skills to, you know, neutralize that, take advantage of it. If it does turn into a brawl, I mean, I could do that too. So either way, I feel very confident in this fight and looking to finish this fight.
Currently, you are #1 in the playoff standings. How important is it for you to head into the playoffs in that #1 seat?
It doesn't really matter to me. I just want to go out there and put on the best performance of my life and, you know, show all my skills.
Welterweight main event tomorrow, Gleison Tibau and Rory the Red King MacDonald. The entire fight card is jam-packed with unbelievable bouts. These are the two divisions with all of the finishers. Well, not all the finishers, but with the majority of the finishers. 71% for the welterweight, 73% of light heavyweight PFL fights end via finish. Kenny Florian, final thoughts before we head into tomorrow night.
I just can't wait to see how the welterweight division plays out. So many great fighters there, so many different scenarios that can happen, and we'll find out about it all tomorrow night.
Ray Cooper III, returning champion, maybe facing a potential of not making the playoffs, and the same is true of Emiliano Sordi. These divisions are really stacked.
Yeah, Magomedkerimov, similar deal. He's got to score a bunch of points. That you back a guy into the corner, you just don't know what he's going to do. They're going to come out swinging.
I almost forgot, Magomedkerimov, the 2018 champ, he's back, all right? 2018 finalist, Vinny Magalhaes, is back in that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist affair. This is going to be an incredible night. 5:30 p.m. on ESPN+, 9 o'clock on ESPN2. Welterweights and light heavyweights. They push to the 2021 Professional Fighters League playoffs continues for the welterweights and the light heavyweights. Kenny Florian's going to be there. Randy Couture is going to be there. Lillian Garcia will be there. Sean O'Connell definitely cannot wait. We expect for you to be there as well on ESPN Plus and on ESPN2. PFL and the push to the playoffs.